Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, as you have already seen in the thumbnail, we are going to learn an important thing that is required while creating your virtual private cloud VPC or your Azure virtual networks or VNets, right? So if without this concept, it will be really difficult for you to understand the networking concept or how to create those, right? So I'll break down all those things in this video and let's get started. Okay, so the concept that we are trying to understand today is IPv4 and subnetting. Okay, so this is really important. So watch this video till the end. You are going to take away a very important thing which will simplify your career, right? So it will be really helpful for you as a DevOps engineer or a network engineer or a cloud engineer, right? So watch this video till the very end, right? So there are few tips and tricks that I'm going to explain. Okay, first let's get started. We already know that IPv4 version 4 uses 32-bit address space, which provides 4.2 billion IP addresses, right? So you also know that we are also already getting used to IP version 6. There are some organizations who have started using IP version 6 addresses because they are running shortage of IPv4 address. Okay, so this was standardized in 1981 itself. Okay, so this is the total amount of IP addresses that we are getting, that is 2 raised to the power of 32. Okay, so from where the IP address actually starts, basically we have 4 octets here separated with dots. Okay, 0.0.0.0. So this 0, the starting is 1 octet, second octet, third octet, fourth octet. Okay, we have addresses till 255.255.255.255. Okay, before when it gets started, right? So it was initially managed by IANA. IANA means Internet Assigned Numbers Authority. It is a standard organization which was managing your IPv4, and also I think DNS also was managed by IANA previously, right? But now it has delegated all these works to some regional authorities. So it has offloaded some of its works to other organizations or regional authorities to take care of these things. Okay, so IPv4 addresses are allocated. That means you have to be allocated with the public IPv4 addresses in order to use them. You cannot go and pick a random address and expect it to work on the public internet without any issues, right? So you will have to be, it should be allocated to you if you have to use it, right? So there is a part of address which is private, right, or which can be used and reused freely. So you don't have to get allocated, it can be used freely, right? So these are the addresses that are generally used within home networks, business networks, and cloud platforms like Azure, AWS, GCP, and all the other cloud service providers, right? So historically, this huge range of IP addresses, that is 4.2 billion IP addresses, was divided into multiple smaller ranges based on their functions. Okay, so there were class A, class B, class C, class D, and E, right? So first let us look into class A. I'm just revising all these things because these are needed to understand the subnetting concept well. Okay, so if you already know this one, you can skip directly to the subnetting part. Okay, so class A address space, it starts with 0.0.0 and ends at 127.255.255.255, right? So this range, this entire range, it includes 128 networks and these many IPs, right? So you will be getting these many IPs in all in the networks that you have, right? So if you see here, it starts with 0 dot anything. It can be anything, 0.1.2.3, like that. So it can go till 127 dot anything, right? So that is what we have mentioned here. 0.0.0.0, the starting is this one and ending this one, until starting and ending. If you consider that as starting and ending, so there are multiple other ranges that you get in between, right? So that is what we have mentioned here. Okay, so the very first octet is for network and rest is for host. So the first octet that you're seeing, the one that I've highlighted, it is for network, and rest three of them are for hosts in case of class A. Okay, so this class was used for huge networks when it was started, right? When it was began, so this network was used for the huge networks and was allocated to huge organizations which had internet presence in the early days of the internet. Companies like Apple, Ford Motors, US military organizations were allocated with these IP address ranges, okay, or class A address spaces. That's about class A. Now let's go into class B, right? So class B starts from 128.0.0.0 and ends at 191.255.255.255. If you see this number 128 and this number, it is stopping right here at 127. So it is continuing from 127 and 128, and it is going till 191.255.255.255, right? So it includes 16,384 networks and 65,536 IPs each network, right? So if you see here, it is starting with 128.0 dot anything. It can, the second address will be 128.1 dot anything, 128.2 dot anything, and it can all the way reach till 191.255. It can be anything, but the last address will be 191.255.255.255. Okay, so here in this case, the first two octets are for networks and the last two are for the hosts. Okay, host means it is given for the subnetting, or so if you want to allocate IP addresses to your devices in the organization, you need host addresses at the end. Whatever the two space that you saw, that is for your hosts or allocating or subnetting. Okay, so this class was huge. It was not for huge organization. It was comparatively large businesses. It was used for large businesses which needed class B. It was which needed internet present, but not as big as your class A organizations, right? So the organizations which were using class A, it was huge, right? But these large businesses doesn't require so many IP addresses, right? So that is why we had another class called class B. Okay, next, going forward, we have class C. It starts from 192.0.0.0 and ends at 253.255.255.255. Okay, this includes this many networks. 20,97,152 networks and 256 IP addresses in each networks. Okay, as you already saw, it starts with 192.0.0. It can be anything at the fourth octet, can be anything. Okay, if you see here, and it all the way goes till 255.255. Okay, so the first three octets are for networks and the remaining is for host. So these three are for network and the last one is for host, because you only have 256 IP addresses which needs to be allocated to your devices, right? So this class is used for smaller businesses. So the startups that are getting started, so they can use this class C networks, okay, which needs internet presence. And we also have another two networks, class D and class E. Okay, so these class D starts with 224.0.0.0 and ends at 239.255.255.255. And this class D is used for multicast. Okay, so you don't have to worry about class D and class E as of now, right? So we are not using it anyway. Class E is used, it has been reserved, so it is actually reserved. Okay, it starts with 240.0.0.0 and ends at 255.255.255.255. Okay, so now we are good with these things. So there is another concept that we need to understand that is called as CIDR. CIDR means classless inter-domain routing. So these things that we saw, right? So class A, class B, class C, class D and E, these are classful routing, but the one that we are going to discuss now is classless inter-domain routing. So when we had this class A, B, C, D and E, why are we going with CIDR? Classless. We had classful, and why are we going less right now? So if you see here, so class A was offering us 16 million IP addresses, and class B was offering 65,000 plus IP addresses, and class C was offering 254 IP addresses, right? So let's assume one case now. Okay, if an organization needed more than 254 host machines, okay, it should be switched to class B itself. Let's say we want 300 IP addresses. Okay, 300 is not fulfilled in class C, right? Ignore class D and E. I have not written that because nowhere we are going to use that, right? So let's assume we want 300 IP addresses, but where is 300? So in class C we are only getting 254. We should go with class B itself, but class B we have 65,535, right? So this could potentially waste over 65,000 odd hosts or IP addresses if my business didn't need to use them, right? So I don't want to use other IP addresses. I only need 300 IP addresses. Thus, we are unnecessarily decreasing the availability of IPv4 addresses, right? So to tackle this one, CIDR was introduced by Internet Engineering Task Force, that is IETF, in 1993 to fix this problem. Okay, so your subnetting concept is based on your CIDR. Okay, so now what is subnet? A subnet is a logical subdivision of an IP network. So you have your network and you will have to divide a logical subdivision of an IP network. So the process of dividing a network into two or more networks is called as subnetting. Okay, so the main purpose of subnetting is to help relieve from network congestion, right? So we were having shortage of networks and we were not utilizing it correctly, but with this subnetting concept we will improve the performance also. Okay, so this is about subnetting. Now let us take an example and start working on it. Okay, so how to calculate subnet? So when you work, so what you will be provided is this one. So they will provide you this one, the very first statement. I have a range of IP address. This is my range, 10.0.0.0/16, and I want 3 subnets. Create three subnets and let me know the details, right? So how will you create subnets? How will you divide this network, right? So to tackle that one, we need to answer the questions followed these these 3 questions. If you answer it, you will be able to get those details. Okay, so first one, what is the new subnet mask? So we'll see what is that. Okay, how many usable host IDs for each new subnet? Okay, we'll see that. List each network ID, the host ID range and the broadcast ID range, right? So if you answer these 3 questions, you will be able to tackle this one. So what is our intention? Our intention is to create 3 subnets for this IP range. Okay, so let me copy this IP address and I'll see you in my Excel sheet where I have a shortcut for you to calculate your subnets. Okay, so welcome back. So this is my Excel sheet. Okay, so this is really important for you to understand. This will help you a lot in your career. Okay, so because using this concept, you can tackle any of your subnetting questions easily. Okay, so if you see here, I have 4 rows here. Okay, one is subnet, host, CIDR and subnet mask. Okay, subnet, you already know what is that. So what I'm doing is, in subnet, I am doubling my numbers here. So 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 plus 4 is 8. I'm taking all these numbers till I get 65,536. Okay, I'm just doubling the number. Okay, in the first row. The second row, which is host, I'm writing this first row in the reverse order. So if you see the last column for this one is 65,536. So I have reversed that and I have placed it in my first entry here, right, in the host column, host row. And the second one, 32,768,16384, and I've reversed that first row and I've made the second row. Okay, so if you see here, it ends at 1. Next is CIDR. You just have to write this one /16/17/18 and all the way till 32. /32 is exact IP address, right? So you can stop right there. So you can ignore this one, the subnet mask, you can ignore that. But if you know this one, it is very helpful for you, right? So it is going to help you a lot. So now our question is to calculate the network ID, broadcast, and the host range for this particular IP address, right? So we also need to create subnets for this, right? So let's go ahead and create that one. Okay, so first things first, what you need to do is you need to read the question correctly. So my question was to get 3 subnets, right? So this number 3 and this range is important here. So 3 subnets is important. So let me go back to my Excel. So you need to search your subnet, the number of subnets in the first row. Okay, where does 3 falls in? So 3 doesn't fall in 1, so 3 doesn't fall in 2, and 3 will fall in 4, right? So I will mark this column. Okay, I'll just mark this column. If you know this column, you will be able to answer any questions regarding that. Okay, so 3 is lying inside this column. Okay, so now let us go back to our question. What is the new subnet mask? Okay, so you have the answer here itself. The new subnet mask is /18, right? So we have answered the first question. That is, I'll just write it here. I'll just say /18. Okay, so first question is done. We have answered the first question. So now next, how many usable host IDs for each new subnets? Let me go back here. So host here, if you see here, you have 16,384, right? Let me copy that. These many IP addresses you can have, or these many hosts you can have, subtracted by -2. So first and the last address will be used by the internet authorized number authority, right? So you cannot use the first and the last 2 IP addresses. So your answer would be 16,382, right? So these are the hosts that you can use actually. First and the last one is used by the authorities. So you will have to subtract the number here in this one. You will have to subtract the host here with -2. Okay, so then you will get the usable hosts. Okay, so second is also done. Next, third one, list each network ID, the usable host ID, and the broadcast, right? We need to actually create subnets right now. Okay, first things first, we need to just know the network ID, right? So to know the network ID, first network, you always have to write whatever they have given in this particular range itself. Okay, so let me type in 10.0.0, okay, .0. Okay, next, if you want to know what is your next ID, so check if your host is greater than 256, right? So 256 is here and it is way greater than 256. So then what you have to do? So then you will just have to divide this host. So 16,384 divided by 256. So you will get 64. So if you just want to clarify, go ahead and calculate that. Next, what you have to do, you just have to type in 10.0.64.0. Okay, that will be your second network. Next, your third network. How will you calculate your third network? or third subnet. So it is really simple. Add 64 again to the second one. So 10.0.64 plus 64, what will be the answer? It is 128, right? So let me type in 10.0.0 slash dot 128.0. Okay, so that is your third network. So the next one, what is your next address? So it would be plus 64 again. 128 plus 64 is 192. Let me type in 10.0.0.192.0. So this is your fourth network. Okay, so if you want to calculate, if you just want to type in your subnets, you can add /18 here. Okay, so let me copy this one. This will be your first subnet. You can just type in /18. Okay, so this is your first subnet, and this will be your second subnet, and this will be your third subnet, right? And this will be your fourth subnet. Okay, but our question was to have only 3 subnets, but we calculated 4. We can ignore the last part. You can completely ignore it. Okay, so you can ignore this one, but our question was to get only 3 subnets. We have satisfied that condition, and we can start using this one. Okay, next let us go with the question and see what is our broadcast ID. So to get your broadcast ID, it is really simple. Okay, so what you have to do is, based on this one, so broadcast ID will be your n+1 network IDs. Okay, so what you have to type in here is 10.0.63.255. Okay, so here we have 64. Subtract 1 and you will get 63, and replace this 0 with 255. That is all you have to do. Now for the second one, you will have to say, you already know the answer. It is 10 dot, let me type in 10.0 dot, so subtract 1 from this one. 128 minus 1 is 127 dot, replace 0 with your 255. I'll just say 255, right? It is that simple. Next, you already know the answer. 10.0 dot, and 192 minus 1 is 191 dot, 0 replaced with 255. That's all. And the last one, you don't have anything here, but you already know the last IP address, right? So the last IP address would be 10.0 dot, right? So you have to type in 255.255. That is all, right? So this is how you calculate your broadcast IDs. Next, last thing, you need to write in the range which can be used with your devices, right? So for that, it is also really simple. So you will have to see your network ID. Okay, so first these two will you cannot use it. So your network ID and broadcast ID, you cannot use it. The range, subtract these two. So after this network, what is the next thing that you will get? So it will be 10.0.0.1, right? So after 0 you will get 1, right? So till how many IP address you can use? It will be 10.0.63.254. So how did I get that? I'll tell you here. Okay, so let me expand a bit. So this ignoring this network ID, so the first IP address is 1 itself, right? And you can also cannot use broadcast ID. So what is the previous IP before broadcast address? So it would be 10.0.63. So instead of 255, we will have 254, right? So that's all, right? So hope you're understanding. So similarly, you have to type in for the next one. It would be 10.0.64.1, okay, and till 10.0.127.254, right? Hope you are understanding the concept, right? So after this address, what is the next one? .1, And before this address, what is the first one, right? So before 255, which is the number that you have 254. That is what I've written here, right? So these the values that I'm entering here, these can be used in assigning the IP addresses to your machines or devices, right? So in the same way, go ahead and type in for the rest of the two. Let me do it very quickly. 10.0. So 128.1 till 10. Okay, 0.191.254. Okay, so that is all. Let me expand it again. Last one, 10. We don't need this, but still we'll write it. 10.0.192.1 10. Okay, so 10.0. So here is the key thing. So it should be 255.254. That is all, right? So this is how you can calculate your entire subnet. There are online tools also, but if you know this one, you can crack interviews really easily, right? So you just have to remember these three columns or three rows. So first one is really simple. 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 2 is 4, 4 plus 4 is 8, 8 plus 8 is 16, 16 plus 16 plus 16 is 2, or 32. Like that you can go all the way till 65,000 odd. And for host, you reverse that first row, and for CIDR it starts with /16, reaches all the way till /32, right? So this is how you calculate your subnet for your VPC or VNet or wherever you are using. So I have one example that you have to try on yourself. Okay, I have this address range and I want 8 subnets. So how will you do it? So I'll just give you one clue and you will have to do the rest of the things. So we need 8 subnets, right? Go back to your sheet. So where is 8? Here we have 8. I told you that if you want to create subnets, you will have to look in your this box, right? The first row, subnet. So we need 8 subnets. 8 falls here. There is exactly one row or column that is equal to 8. So I will mark that one. So for all the things, this will provide you the answer for the second question. So I will drop this one. I will drop the example 2 in the description box below. You can check and you can answer this, and you can also answer in the comments, right? So you can just calculate these things and you can specify those things in the comments down below. Okay, so this is how you can calculate subnet and IP addresses for your VPC or VNet or wherever the networking concepts are there for your cloud. So you can use this one. Okay, so I'll make sure to drop all the resources in the description box below. You can go and check that out. Okay, I hope you're enjoying learning alongside with me. If you're liking the content, please consider subscribing and share it among your friends. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.